Glad to have you with us here on Seahawks Today. Tyler Jones here as we get you up to speed on all the roster moves of your Seattle Seahawks, specifically within the last 24 hours. But I want to take things back even further to the last week plus and run through one by one. Let's tell you everything that's gone on so far at this point in time. And I want to take you back to July 23rd. That's where we'll begin when the Seahawks signed Marcus Sims. We did a whole video about that here on the channel. You can see more in depth about him, the wide receiver that they brought in out of the UFL and a former West Virginia Mountaineer. Also signing Jalen Sundell at the offensive tackle position. Then the next day, on the 24th, they released Tremayne Anchrum, who they had originally brought in from the Los Angeles Rams to compete in the interior of the offensive line. He's gone now. Also, they signed Ilm Manning at the offensive guard spot as his replacement. And then the next day, they ended up releasing Andrew Whitaker at the cornerback position. But that was just the start of all the moves that the Seahawks have made as of late. Then, on that same day, the 25th, they signed Ty Scott at the wide receiver position. He played at the FCS level at Missouri State, was where he was at, where he comes from. Not a ton of experience, but we'll see what he potentially brings to the table there. They released Jonathan Sutherland at the safety position the day following, and Jonathan Sutherland is a guy that they had liked. I was a bit surprised, actually, that they released him this early on, as he was somebody that had impressed in the limited work that we had seen in some of these offseason practices, if you will. He was replaced by a very familiar name, the Seahawk fans, as Marquise Blair made his return, the former second-round pick, who the Seahawks were very hopeful about when they had brought him in just a few years ago. Dealt with some injuries and whatnot, and they ultimately moved on from him. Now he gets the second chance to try to make this Seahawks roster. He's bounced around a couple different teams since leaving Seattle a few years ago. And then there was an injury settlement yesterday for Ricky Person Jr. Remember, they signed him, just over a month ago out of the UFL, bringing him in as a guy that would be competing for that number 4 running back spot. And there was even some discussions about could he potentially beat out Kenny McIntosh for the RB3 position. Ultimately, they decide to move on with the injury there, and he gets released, and he'll be free to go search for a job with other teams. A couple more moves we'll talk about here in just a second, but I want to start with Marquise Blair for a second. I'm a bit surprised to see his return, actually. This one, to me, kind of came out of left field, if you will. I thought that we were just done, if you will, when it came to Marquise Blair as far as that goes. But I'm open to giving him another shot, especially when you talk about the lack of depth at the safety position. That's been an ongoing theme that we've discussed on this channel over the last several weeks here, that the Seahawks want to have 3 high safety looks, if you will, but they don't have a ton of cash to spend at the moment, so they're trying to find whatever options, and maybe Blair could potentially compete to be that third safety alongside Kayvon Wallace and Kobe Bryant there. They released Easton Gibbs. He's gone now, the former Wyoming Cowboy. And then they made 2 more signings yesterday, adding Rodney Matthews at the defensive tackle position. We'll have more on him coming up in just a bit. And then a very intriguing signing that I want to dive into a little bit further here in just a second, as they added Kairee Robinson out of San Jose State at the running back position, basically as the replacement for Ricky Person Jr. Now, when it comes to Matthews and Robinson, I'm not really expecting a ton out of them. At this point, they walk into Seahawks training camp basically as camp bodies, if you will. But that doesn't mean they won't get an opportunity. If they impress, then we can have that discussion, especially depending on how these preseason games go and all that. But I got to tell you, you will find what we tell you here in just a bit about Robinson pretty fascinating of what he did at the college level. We'll dive into that here in just a few moments. How would you grade the Seahawks roster moves of what they've done here over the last several days? A, B, C, D, or F. Let us know in the comments section what you think of the moves by the Seattle Seahawks. Weigh in, A, B, C, D, or F, and let us know. Folks, this is why you subscribe to Seattle Seahawks Today, as we're keeping you up to date with every single move on this team. No move is too big or too small that we don't talk about it here on the channel. We're going to continue to keep you up to date. We got our live shows twice a week. We got a watch party next week for the Seahawks game against the Chargers, the first preseason game. Stay up to date with everything on your Seattle Seahawks all off season long and into the regular season for daily videos, sometimes 2 and 3 a day. I want to get 50 subs off today's video. Can we make it happen? Can we get 50 new subs? Subscribe now. YouTube.com/Seahawks TV to subscribe now. My grade for the moves that the Seahawks have made over this stretch, I'm going with a B- here. Let me explain why. You didn't really help or hurt this team with the moves you made. You made moves that were necessary for where you're at this point in training camp, right? This wasn't earth-shattering. This wasn't the end of the world either. Most of these players that you brought in are just kind of mid at best. You're just seeing what you can potentially get out of them. Let's tell you more about Marquise Blair, the Seahawks addition that makes his return here. Former second-round pick out of Utah, was considered a bust as things didn't really work out, struggled to stay healthy in his first go-round with the Seattle Seahawks. Went on to play for the Panthers and the Eagles. 25 career games played, 3 starts. He was somebody that they gave a shot to early on. They had high expectations for, but ultimately it never really worked out. And that's the nature of the beast. Sometimes that's the way these things go. In his career stats, not great. Hasn't done a ton. Just 50 career tackles with 1 tackle for loss, 3 passes defended, and 3 forced fumbles over his career. We'll tell you more about the other signings coming up in just one moment. But first, let's tell you about today's sponsor, Game Time. Game Time, the best place to go for last-minute tickets for the best seats and the lowest prices guaranteed. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. Save up to 60% off last minute for sports, concerts, comedy shows, theater productions, and more. Here's how it works, folks. You choose the event you want to go to. They got the prices listed. And then from there, you choose your seat. See if you like that seat in the visual, get an idea of what it's going to look like when you get there. And then just like that, you're checking out on Game Time. Apple Pay, Google Pay, Venmo, all major credit card providers. It is very simple and easy, folks. Just like that, you're getting your tickets. And that's not all. If you download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code ChatSports, we're offering you $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. The link is in the comments and the description of today's video. All right, more on Rodney Matthews. Let's tell you about one of the newest members of the Seattle Seahawks. Undrafted in 2024 out of the University of Ohio. He was a 2-year starter there for the Ohio Bobcats. Had a lot of experience there at Ohio, playing in 41 career games. And his stats last season included 20 total tackles, 4.5 tackles for loss, 4 hurries, and an interception last season there for Ohio. So we'll see potentially what he's made of. But now the guy that I really want to talk about is say hello to Mr. Robinson. Mr. Robinson, we'll talk about Kairee Robinson, who the Seahawks just added out of San Jose State. And this guy's pretty intriguing. He's not the biggest guy by any stretch, just about 5'6", about a $180, if you will, but was very impressive at San Jose State. Here's more on him. He was a first-team All-Mountain West Conference selection this past year. He was also a group of 5, that is the non-power conferences in college football, second-team All-American in 2023. And he was second in San Jose State's history in rushing touchdowns scored. So one of the best running backs ever to come out of San Jose State. And the statistics last season were off the charts. He had a fantastic year with 7 yards per carry. I don't care if you're doing that in the Mountain West or the SEC. 7 yards a carry is impressive wherever you go, folks. 18 touchdowns, same thing. I don't care if it's the Mountain West or the Big Ten. 18 touchdowns is a lot. Nearly 1,200 yards off of 170 carries. He was very impressive. Maybe the Seahawks found themselves potential change of pace back here. We'll see. Keep an eye on that. He's also got receiving skills, which is what Ryan Grubb is looking for out of his running backs, as they're going to be very active and involved in the screen game there. So let's ask you now, who should the Seahawks sign next? Who comes to mind that you would like to see? I know we all have our tabs on Connor Williams, waiting to see if he's going to be a Seahawk or not. We're kind of on Connor Williams' watch at this point. Let us know, weigh in, who the Seahawks should add to the roster next. For continuing Seattle Seahawks coverage, subscribe now to Seahawks Today. We got you covered each and every day on the channel. We got more content coming up later on this afternoon, so be on the lookout for that. Also going to be live on Friday as well. We'll see you then. Subscribe today, and we'll see you next time right here on Seahawks Today.